And we're up. Hey everyone, it's Ross Anderson here from Brave New World Wine in Australia. And welcome to a very special episode of Meet the Maker with a Difference. As you know, we're always doing these shows to inform you, entertain you, and educate you on all things wine and maybe a bit of other stuff today, a bit of music. As many of you know, COVID-19 has had a massive impact upon the South African wine industry. With the South African industry having one of the toughest lockdowns in the world. Restrictions were finally lifted last week, which is great, but it's even more critical for us to keep talking about the amazing value for money coming out of this area and to encourage you to drink South African wherever you are in the world. Now, onto today's show. And this show is several years in the making. I first met today's guest in 2016 in Japan, where I was fortunate to be invited on tour with rock and roll supergroup, the Dead Daisies. I recall sitting backstage, and after these guys had delivered their 45 minutes of blistering rock and roll, they all retired backstage, and our guest hovered over to the drinks table and poured himself a glass of Pinot. I took note of that. I thought that was very interesting. I was then fortunate to travel to Nashville in 2017, where once again, I got to hang out with our guests for more than a week and other band members. And I think it was probably my fault that there was bottles of wine on the table most nights after recording. The highlight of that trip was, of course, for me, a trip in an Uber with our guests to Carter's Vintage Guitars, where I was fortunate to buy my very first Gibson guitar from the home of Gibson. And then we returned to the studios and this happened.
Awesome. So it's my friend Ross's guitar.
So yet another memorable moment for me personally. And now, despite being one of the very best guitarists in the world and having played in some of the biggest bands and continuing to play in some of the biggest bands, our guest is one of the kindest, friendliest, and most welcoming human beings you could ever hope to meet. We're very lucky today to have him joining us live from Los Angeles. So without any further delays, please welcome Mr. Doug Aldrich.
Hey guys.
Hey Doug.
How are you, buddy?
I'm very well. How are you, my friend?
I'm stone cold sober.
Well, it's 4:30 in the afternoon on Sunday in LA, and it's 9:30 a.m. Sydney time Monday morning. So what a great way for me to start the week with a glass of wine. There you go.
Absolutely. Well, I'm happy to be here. No, everybody's good here. We're everybody's dealing with the same thing all over the world, and we're not able to travel, but we've got the music and we got the vino. So how bad can it be?
It could get worse, that's for sure. Doug, how are things in Los Angeles and in America at the moment?
Well,
in general?
The whole world has been put upside down. It's been very difficult. There's a lot of families. Fortunately, we're all healthy and stuff in my family, but there's a lot of families that have been torn apart health-wise and economically because of all the stuff that we've had to do to try and control this virus. And I was reading today the drummer from Foo Fighters was an article saying he felt guilty that he was doing okay during the thing because so many people aren't, and I get what he's saying, So I'm definitely blessed to be able to work from home and be near my family, protect them, and and nobody's sick, so we're very lucky.
Yeah, sure. I know you guys are itching to get out on the road. You've got a new album already recorded. It's sitting in the wings. I've been very fortunate to listen to it several times over. You've got a new singer with Glenn Hughes joining the band.
Yeah.
It's just classic rock and roll. It's amazing, and I for one can't wait for it to be released. But yeah, it must be really itchy and annoying for you guys.
Yeah, man, we've we've had to push it back. We had a whole schedule this year, which we pushed back till next year, and including the release of the new record called Holy Ground, that features Glenn, and Glenn just shines on the record. He's just, it's always a little strange when you make a change, but I was describing the change like, this is going to sound strange probably, but like when Brian Johnson came in after Bon Scott, it's like you got similarities in the band, but of course the lead vocal is definitely different. It's a different person. So it's but we're very excited and happy about Glenn. Like I said, Glenn shines on it, and we're excited.
His lyrics and his sound is just haunting, and it just interweaves all the way through the music. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Great album, so yeah. Doug, what have you got in your glass? You should have a glass of wine. Now, for those playing at home, we planned this a couple of months ago, and it's really hard to find South African wines or some of the wines that we bring into Australia in America. But I found these 3 bottles in New York. Shout out to Empire Liquors or Empire Wines in New York, and we had them shipped across to Los Angeles for you. You should have a bottle of, I'll put it up here on the screen, Cedarburg. It's pronounced Bukatrab, and it's a very rare, very small batch made wine. I think Cedarburg have the only plantations left, or one of the only plantations left in the world of this wine. And this is a great wine that goes with your spicy foods, your Thais and things like that. And I'm sure your lovely wife Daniela will really enjoy getting into that afterwards. I'm hoping she would.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've had a chance to try any of the wines, but
no, I just opened them. I chilled that one just a little bit, and I just opened them. I've got a vintage glass here. So actually, I'm staying in a house down the street from my house, and so all my proper glasses are at my house. We're doing some renovations at my place, so I found this vintage crystal wine glass that I'm gonna have to use today, which hopefully hopefully it'll be good. Now let me ask you, with this wine, are you supposed to grab down here or up here?
Look, you grab it where you like, but I generally just grab it near the bottom of the stem.
All right.
Hold it there and just give it a swell.
The heat to the wine, right? Keep it cold.
Yeah, if you wanted to heat it up, you do something like that. Get a bit of the body heat on there. Right. I mean, I don't know what the weather's like in LA. It's freezing in Sydney. I think we're at about 13 degrees at the moment, so it's pretty cold.
It's like 40 degrees here.
You need to chill everything down at the moment.
Cheers! Wow,
cheers from Australia.
That is amazing. Cheers from Los Angeles, everybody.
It's pretty easy going, isn't it? It's good wine. This will go great with your Thais, or maybe some light spicy curries or things like that. Yeah.
My wife is gonna freak out when she tastes that. That's
good.
I don't really know that much about wine, to be really honest with you. I know when I like it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. This wine, this white is spectacular.
Yeah. Got it a little bit cool. It's going to go down beautifully well. I mean, great on the barbecue or hanging around the pool or whatever you guys are doing. Doug,
playing some jazz music.
Oh, there we go. Setting the scene.
Order the cook. It's very jazzy, this wine. It's really like a
Sunday afternoon in Los Angeles.
It's insane, man.
I think we'll get up to that when we get to the Reds.
Yeah.
Hey, Doug, tell us a little about your amazing story. I mean, you're clearly influenced by Southern rock bands. Tell us a bit about those influences.
when I started off guitar, this was a long time ago. They, back in the olden days, there wasn't any distraction really for kids, and I basically was left alone one summer with no friends. Everybody had gone to camp or whatever, and there was nothing for me to do. So I picked up my sister's classical guitar and just started to have a go on it. And it was like like therapy, And I loved music, of course, but I didn't have a record player, and I didn't have obviously didn't have a guitar of my own. But I kind of borrowed that guitar from her for a while, and then eventually I got my mom to take me to the department store. We had a department store in the U.S. and called Sears, and I got a really cheap. I think the guitar was like $49 something, and a little baby amp, and it kept me happy for a summer, to play that guitar and learn, and I started to listen. My older sister had a record player. Actually, they both had record players, and they both had different albums and different stuff. My younger sister had Kiss. My older sister had Jeff Beck and stuff like that. And I really latched on to Jeff's guitar style just because that record, it was called Blow by Blow, that record. And that record is undeniable when you're a guitar player. It's so good. And from there, some friends got me into Led Zeppelin, and then it was all over. It's just some bands like Deep Purple were on the radio with Smoke on the Water. Zeppelin was on the radio with Stairway to Heaven. Hendrix was on the radio. Stuff like Purple Haze and Foxy Lady, whatever. Hey Joe, and the Allman Brothers were on there, and so Leonard Skinner. There was a lot of stuff, but later I found the European guys that were like guys like Gary Moore and Rory Gallagher, David Gilmour. Got more into Richie Blackmore with Rainbow and stuff like that. So all of these people influenced me, and I still get influenced. I'm still, no matter who's playing, I find something that I could use, to learn from.
Yeah. And with all this influencing, do you have a favorite wine-related memory that weaves into your musical journey at all, like your tours or just private when you're not touring and you live next to the Napa Valley and Sonoma and beautiful wine-producing areas all around you. So, do you have any cool memories that always flash back?
Well, my memories are probably they're not very highbrow. There was, when I was a kid, there was the first wine I ever even heard of was called Boone's Farm Apple Wine. It was a really cheap wine that you get at the drugstore, just and people used to chill it in the creek, put it in the water in the creek. I don't know what you call it in Australia, but
creeks, yep.
Yeah, and about 2 sips of that stuff, and I'd be like completely wasted. But
were you of legal drinking age or not?
No. This is, I don't know where somebody came from, somebody's parents or some older kids or something, but it was definitely far from the caliber of where we are today. But that's the first memory I ever had, and maybe my parents had some wine sometimes. They weren't big drinkers, but then later, and I wasn't really into wine too much. Then later I got to California when I was 18. And I didn't really have much money, so I couldn't afford much wine. So periodically I might get a dinner somewhere, and maybe somebody would have a wine. We'd get a glass of wine or something. But I guess it was around 1992, I started to travel around California a little bit and got up to Napa, California, and found some really nice California wines up there, Russian Rivers area. And so anyway, then fast forward to touring after that in 2002 with Ronnie James Dio, and we were touring with Deep Purple and the Scorpions, and we didn't have, we didn't have a lot of money really. We had some backstage food and drink that was back there, and we'd have that after the show. But then, like, during the tour, we would sometimes, split a bottle of wine or whatever. But I remember one night, the bars had closed and we weren't done drinking yet. So we happened to, we were staying at the Ritz-Carlton, a really nice hotel, and the bars were closed. We're walking back to the hotel and there's a tour bus that was not our tour bus. And it turns out it was the artist called Jewel. And so I didn't want to do it. I was afraid to do it, but the keyboard player went and knocked on the door, and there's always wine on the bus. There's always an extra bottle or two of wine on a bus. And Scott, the keyboard player of Dio, knocked on the door, and he asked the bus driver, "Hey, you guys got any wine?" And he's like, "Yeah, man." He gave us a couple bottles of wine. Well, little did I know that Ronnie was watching from his window. He was watching the whole thing, and Scott got in big trouble with Ronnie for going on the bus and asking for wine. He's like, "What's wrong with you? Why would you do that? It's embarrassing." But anyway, those are just a few little stories. But then, later on, as I've gotten older and been around, been fortunate to be around people who are really smart about wine, they would tell me what's really good and not. And like I say, I know a little bit, but generally, as the price goes up, the taste goes up.
As long as you know what you like, I think that's really what matters. Tell me, what do you think of this wine while we're getting ready to hit the reds? You like it?
I love it. I poured myself too much. I might be wasted if I drink the whole thing, but let me try.
I'm sure the guy's back in there, so we'll be happy to hear that.
It's called Ciderberg?
Cederberg.
Ciderberg.
So, it's the highest elevation of any vineyard in Africa. It's at the highest elevation. It's really high altitude. It's about 2.5 to 3 hours direct north of Cape Town, which is where all the vineyards sort of areas are. And it's on the cusp of like desert.
My wife had visited South Africa several times, and she will be very excited about that one. She's gonna love it. But yeah,
not quite sure.
It's almost got like a little bit of a. It's got a little zing to it. It's very interesting.
Yep. Yeah, little zing of some crisp acid and lots of really nice flavors in it, like that, almost semi-tropical. Yeah, I really like that. Good. Wow. Well, I'm glad you like that. That's good. Tell me, Doug. Sorry, you go.
Say again?
I was going to say, my first introduction to music, my first albums were the Talking Heads, the Stop Making Sense album, and Fleetwood Mac's Tango in the Night. What were yours?
My first favorite album was probably Jeff Beck, Blow by Blow. Like I said, my younger sister Janet, she had Kiss Alive, and that was awesome. And my first album that I really got into was Led Zeppelin 2. And the first album I bought, or the first single I bought, was Black Sabbath, Iron Man. Iron Man was, and then on the B side there's a song called Electric Funeral. And basically what it was there were these kids in my neighborhood, and this is before I think this was before I played guitar. I bought that first little 45 single. These kids had a gang, like a gang of kids. I thought they were cool guys, They were older, and they were called the Malls. And I wanted to join the gang. They said, "Well, if you bring us a single of Iron Man, you can join the gang." And so I asked my mom, "Hey, can we go to the record store and get this Black Sabbath record?" She's like, "What? Black Sabbath? What's that?" I said, "I don't know, but if I get it, then I'm going to get the gang." It's so weird, man, because all these little tie-ins to where I am right now that I still love that record, and we got the guys. Tony Iommi is one of the great guitar players I've been really fortunate to meet, and a lot of times when you meet your heroes, you can get disappointed, but Tony's a sweetheart. super nice guy, and we were both pallbearers for Ronnie James when he passed away. That was the last time I actually spoke to him. It was about 10 years ago.
I always I'm mixed up as to who I prefer singing for Black Sabbath, whether it is Ronnie or whether it's Ozzy, and I think it's actually Ronnie.
They're both great. I love Ronnie, of course. I mean that Heaven and Hell record, when that came out, it was just blew everybody away. But yeah, Ozzy is the classic. You know, he's the classic singer, and Ronnie is this second guy. But then Ronnie took off on his own. Ozzy took off on his own. Then they both went back. Ozzy went back with Sabbath, and Ronnie went back with Heaven and Hell. And yeah, that's when Ronnie was really. I'll never forget that day. He said we were on tour, and he said, "I'm going to meet with Tony Iommi." We were in Birmingham, England, and he said, "I'm going to meet with Tony," and he goes, "They want me to do a thing for the box set, Black Sabbath box set." And I was like, "Wow, that's great." And he goes, "I don't really want to do it. You know, I want to keep my band busy. I just want to work with Dio. You know, that's what he wanted to focus on." And but then he got all dressed up, and he came down the elevator. I was having some soup at the bar, and he was all dressed up. I go, "Ronnie, you look great, man." He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to go meet Tony." And I remember he came back, and instead of being kind of bummed out, he was super excited. He's like, I go, "How'd it go?" He goes, "It was great, man. We had a blast. It was great to see Tony, and we're gonna get together and write some stuff." And that was the first step towards those guys getting back and doing Heaven and Hell together.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. Yeah, just to be a fly on the wall to hear those conversations would be something pretty special. Doug, tell us a little bit about your illustrious career. You've been part of some amazing lineups, and you're still part of several amazing lineups. 3 huge bands. Tell us a little bit about those.
Well, I was with Dio for a while, and I kind of would jump back and forth a couple times if he needed me. But primarily in 2003 till 2014, 2002 to 2014, about 11 and a half years or so, I was with Whitesnake, and that was a blast. David and I wrote 30 songs together in that time, and put out 2 studio records and a live record with some studio tracks, and actually another couple live albums that went along with DVDs. So it was a really creative and amazing time, and I was super dedicated to Whitesnake. Didn't do anything else really, except for jumping around. You know, if Ronnie was doing a little tour and needed me, and I was off the road, David would okay it, obviously, and then we'd go. And then I wanted to be home with my son. You know, it was like I've been on tour in a way a long, long time, and had gone through a breakup of my marriage, and I just wanted to be with my son. So I kind of tapped out of Whitesnake at that time, and took a gig in Vegas. And then I got really burned out of being at home. I did enjoy being with my son, and he was living with me primarily full time, and I had met my wife, my current wife Daniela, already, and she came and she was with us, and we ended up getting married in 2014. And then I got an offer to go on the road with Glenn Hughes for a couple weeks, and I thought that sounds like fun, and we had a blast. And then I got a call from the Dead Daisies, from Marco Mendoza, saying like their guitar player had injured himself on a motorcycle accident, and could I do some dates? You know, it was like a couple months of dates. And I said, I can't. I committed to Glenn for Japan, a Japanese run, and I can't do it. I'm sorry, but thanks for thinking of me. And I offered a couple of ideas for replacement. They ended up getting somebody from Australia, I think, actually. But
yeah, it's the guitarist from the Baby Animals.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Great guitar player. And
yeah.
But eventually, it turns out that Guns N' Roses was reforming, and Richard was going back on the road with Guns N' Roses. and he recommended that they call me again, which they did, and I joined the Dead Daisies full stop, and it's been great, man. It's been now 4 years. We've done we've got 2 studio albums out. We've got a couple of live records. We've got the lockdown sessions that we just released, and we've recorded Holy Ground, which is I can't wait for people to hear it. It's really, really great album. We put out basically 2 songs from that record so far. One was called Righteous Days to announce that Glenn was joining the band. Then we re-recorded that song, and then we put out Unspoken this spring during when the lockdown started. A lot of the lyrics just seemed to really fit the time that was going on, and we wanted to keep our fans, which are also our friends, we wanted to keep them engaged in the band. So we released that song, and it did really well. Radio liked it, fans liked it. So I think we're going to release another single in the next month, maybe less.
Yeah. Doug, let's get some more wine into your glass. Let's get on to the Canon Corp, the one with the yellow label. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Let's crack into that. I'll tell you a little bit about that wine in a sec. I'm just using one of these fancy Coravin openers so I can keep the bottle a bit longer.
Yeah. That's very high tech. I'm going to basically use a cork.
It's just stops you drinking the whole bottle, that's all.
That's cool.
All right, so while that's just pouring there, so there's 2 other things you haven't mentioned. 2 other bands there was a close call on. One was Kiss, and one was almost GNR. Tell us about that.
Well, when I first moved to Los Angeles, I started right away playing in a club band, and it turned out that Kiss happened to be looking for a guitar player. I didn't even know about it, but the drummer Eric Carr, who's since passed away, he came and saw me play, and he said, "I think you'd be great to audition for the band." And it didn't sink in, but I remember feeling strange because nobody at that time had seen those guys without their makeup. So I saw his face, and it felt strange, because I'm used to seeing him as a fox. And then he called me one day and said, "Okay, I want you to come down, bring your guitar down to the record plant, and then we're gonna have you play on some of the tracks and just meet the guys." So it was all good. I got there, and I was a little nervous. So he took me into a bar next door to the record plant where they were recording it. We had a shot. I think it was tequila or whiskey or something. I don't know. It knocked me on my butt. But I went in and met the guys, and played on some of the tracks off the Creatures of the Night record, and we jammed live a couple times. Gene said, "Come, let's play live. Let's play together." That was like the way you did it back then. You really wouldn't know how it was going to go until you played together. And then they called me back again, and I was like, "Wow, this is getting serious," So we played another time, and then a week went by, and I didn't hear anything, and I called Eric, and he said, "We love your playing and stuff, but we really need somebody with more experience." I was 18 at the time, so what it did was it gave me like confidence to really take music serious and start to work hard and try and educate myself in music. So that's what happened with that. And then later, when I was with Whitesnake, GNR had broken up, and Axl wanted to reform the band. And he got Richard, and he had Bumblefoot, and they were looking for a new kind of guy that was going to be the bluesy guy. And I got a call to come audition for them, but I didn't. I was actually sitting next to David Coverdale when the call came, and I just said it was Dizzy Reed, who, funny enough, he was in the Dead Daisies before me.
Yeah, sure.
And so Dizzy and I had known each other. He played on a solo record that I did, and we got on great. So he thought of me. He always was complimentary about my playing, and he said, "Doug, you should come audition, because we're looking for a kind of bluesy guy, whatever." And I go, "Well, I'm in Whitesnake, Dizzy. You came to the gig last year." He goes, "Oh yeah, I remember." And I go, "Well, I'm working on a record right now with David. It's the first full-length record. It's called Good to Be Bad." And he was sitting right next to me. I go, "So I'm in Whitesnake?" He goes, "Yeah. And I go, "Well, we're working on a record right now. It's the first full-length record for like 10 years since the band, put out the last album." And I said, I appreciate you thinking of me, but I got to pass, on the invitation just because I'm totally deep into this, co-wrote 12 songs on that record or whatever it was. And so I passed. And the guy that got the gig was DJ Ashba. In the end, I don't really have regrets about stuff too much. I just go with my heart. That's what the best thing to do. Don't worry about don't worry about trying to chase things or anything.
If they're meant to be, they'll come back. Anyway, have a taste of that. See what you think of this wine. So we're on to the reds, Doug. This is, hold it up on the screen. This is the Canoncorp, which means cannon head, and it's the Cadet Cape blend. And that's basically a blend of 3 or 4 different grapes. There's a Pinotage, which is a South African varietal, Cabernet, Merlot, and Canoncorp means cannon head, and it was one of the highest pieces of elevated land in the wine growing region, and you could see the trade ships coming into Cape Town docks, and it would fire the cannons to signal to the farmers they should take all their fresh produce to the ships. And this was some time ago. I mean, the South African industry is about 360, 370 years old. So the cannons are still at the front gate, and it's regarded as a premium wine producer for South Africa. But keen to see what you think about it. Quite a different taste on the palate. It's quite savory and earthy.
It's definitely a dark wine. It's rich and it's full-bodied. It's
This is your barbecue wine. This is a big steak on the barbecue.
Yeah, it's got a little. It's almost got a little bit of a spice, like a Zinfandel, almost. What I think. But
yeah, no, I agree completely. This is one of the big sellers here. It's very popular with the Australian market and the expats that live around. We can never keep it in stock, so there's a couple of bottles I had under the desk, and I yanked one out this morning before we hooked up live. So, Doug, you're into sports and fitness. I believe you played basketball and football and baseball at school.
Soccer.
Soccer. Tell us a little bit about your sports and do you follow a soccer team in Los Angeles? Is it the Galaxy or?
The Los Angeles team that I like is the LAFC. That's the soccer team, and then baseball, the Dodgers. Football, I like American football. I like the Philadelphia Eagles. That's kind of where I grew up. So that was my team I was connected to. I never really got into the LA teams too much, and then they went away, and now they're back. Now the Rams are back big time in Los Angeles. They just opened up a brand new stadium. But yeah, growing up, I was really into all kinds of sport until I got to high school, and then guitar was just the thing. That was
together. Yeah.
I played guitar every day and was just trying to learn, listening to records, and it was pretty much self-taught. Which is why after the Kiss audition, I thought, maybe I need to start learning actually what I'm doing. Because Gene Simmons said, he goes, "Hey Doug, can you try a major scale over this part?" Which is major scale would be, and I said, "Major scale, what's that?" He goes, "Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la." And I go, "Oh yeah. So I played some kind of a major in that key was C. So a major, I play A minor pentatonic, which is kind of C major pentatonic. So I needed to learn about stuff like that. And then later on, I forgot all that I learned. Yeah, then, so I was into sports until high school. When I got in high school, first of all, I was a little thinner and not like football. I went to a public school and tried to play football, but I was on the younger team of that school. And then the equipment that we were wearing, the padding and the helmet and everything was like ancient, archaic. It was like from the 50s or something, you know, or 40s. And it's just like, I'm wearing this old smelly stuff and it was just like nasty. I just was like, forget it. I'm going to just play guitar. That's it. So I practiced and practiced and practiced and mostly played rhythm at that time. Just learning, you know, different ways to play rhythm and chords and tempos and stuff like that. And then later I got into playing, you know, as a lead player. But I still love, you know, I love sports as far as I love playing basketball still with my son. Yeah. Playing soccer with him. He's really, really good at soccer for the U.S. The U.S. kids are maybe not quite as advanced as the European or the Australian or the South American kids, but it's becoming more popular. And we got an Argentinian coach for my son, and he's really taken to it. So that's been fun. When I like stuff like surf. I mean, I started surfing last year again. I used to surf when I was a kid. And realized when you're in your 50s, it's a little harder than when you're 15.
Oh God, yeah.
But
absolutely.
And
have you ever got into rugby union or anything like that? Have you ever bothered looking at or trying to figure that sport out?
Rugby?
Yeah, like the stuff that.
No, I mean,
no padding.
I watched a huge match about, I don't know when it was. It was probably like 2010 or 11, and it was Australia versus New Zealand. And it was the New Zealand team is called the All Blacks, right?
Yeah. Brutal, clinical, brutal. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they did win actually, but Australia put up a great fight. I was actually with an Australian friend that we were watching it at a hotel. We were on the road, and maybe it was 2015 when I was with Glenn. Maybe that's where it was. I don't remember, but either way, I like to watch it. I've never played it. I would get crushed.
Most people do get crushed, yeah.
Get crushed like a grape. Speaking of grapes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, go for it. What do you think?
That's fantastic.
It gets better as you keep it open, let it breathe a bit. Leave that in the glass for half an hour. It's a killer.
I'm inspired.
Just a little something you hooked up on the spot there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just... I've got this right here is a 1968 that I recently got, that I got a smoking deal on it because it had been refinished. So it's like half price, but that's why I like player guitars, because I don't want to, buy a guitar that I'm going to keep in a closet or something.
Staring at you.
And it's got the P90s, as you know, and it's I got it refretted since it already been repainted, refinished. I got it refretted with the frets that I like, and it's just killer. Nice old piece of wood,
How long have you had it?
I got it earlier this year. I've had it probably 5 months, something like that, 6 months.
The one that I keep remembering you with was the one that you had on the table in Japan at Loud Park, and the the body is quite cracked just under the armpit. It's got quite a lot of.
Oh yeah. That's a 2006 reissue, 58 reissue. Sorry, 57 reissue, and that was some of that was done by me playing it a lot because I use that for a lot of shows. But they do a thing with guitars now called relicking them, where they make them kind of look played in a little bit. And most of my guitars are just, I've done that just naturally. That one is kind of extreme because
it's extreme.
they put a bit of work into that. So anything that I did on top of that was even more. But it was pretty. It's got a pretty beat up kind of vibe to it, that guitar. This doesn't have much. You know, it's got a little bit of. They call it belt rash or buckle rash.
Buckle rash, yeah.
It's got a little bit of that. The neck, for some reason, it's got a little bit of. You can't really see it, but it's got a little bit of paint chips missing.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's in pretty good shape for being a 1968.
Do you wear any jewelry when you're playing? Do you have any rings on your?
No, I'm not. I have, you know, I have this ring, my wedding ring.
Yeah.
And I wear a watch sometimes, but no, I'm not really super big into jewelry.
The reason I ask is I remember watching a video with Richie Faulkner from Judas Priest, and he's got all the Priest gear and the metal and all the gear on, and he showed us the back of the headstock of his Flying V, and it's just shredded. It's down to bare wood.
Yeah.
I thought it's crazy. But, yeah.
That's different. When you're in, you know, Richie's a friend of mine. He's a great guitar player. When we toured together actually with Whitesnake. Whitesnake and Priest toured together a lot actually, and prior to Richie coming, and then when Richie came. But yeah, Richie's a brutal guitar player, and you know, part of the thing of that band is the metal studs and all that stuff. I remember Rob Halford has a coat, a black leather coat with the studs on it. Have you ever seen that? He's got he's got several, but that coat, if you put that coat on, it weighs like 40 or 50 pounds. It's crazy. It's like a workout, you know.
That's why he needs the walking stick.
When he does that, when he put that coat on, he would be doing metal gods and like whatever, it's something like that, and he'd just be like taking a step and another step.
Another step.
You can't really move with that thing. It was so heavy.
I saw Priest in Sydney at Download last year, and I was they were on just before Slayer, and I was right at the very, very, very front. I was not going to miss being as close to the action as possible. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, Priest are the number one for me. They always have been. They always will be. I absolutely love them. But talking about your guitars, tell us a bit about your guitars, Doug. Are you sponsored or endorsed by Gibson and ESP? How does that work?
I'm not with ESP anymore. I basically was. ESP is a great company. Let me explain. They're an amazing company that I was introduced to properly when I got the Dead Daisies, and they said, you know, is there some kind of guitar that we could give you that you could use for the show? We know you love Les Pauls, and that's kind of primarily your thing, but I said, yeah, man, I love Tellys too. So we put together a couple Tellys, and they were really great, and they're killer guitars. They're amazing, but it's just like I can't get rid of the feel of the Les Paul. It's like I told them, I go, look, if we can build a guitar that'll play and I can connect to, like the Les Paul, then I'll play it. You know, I'll play it more than a few songs. I'll feature it as my main guitar. And they worked really hard, and they did some great versions. And I have 3 of them. I have a Ronnie Wood guitar, and then I have 2 custom guitars they did for me. And they play amazing, and they sound amazing, but it's just the scale of the Telly is a little different than a Les Paul. It's a little bit longer. And the Les Paul is just what I love. I don't know. I love Strats. I love Tellys. I love all kinds of guitars, but the main thing is with Gibson, and yeah, now Gibson's been super kind to me. I've been doing some work for them, and in return, they offered me to, let me, if I needed something, to let them know, and they'd help me out. And I never took them up on it until recently, because I was down at my buddy's guitar shop, and there was a Les Paul there that I fell in love with, and I left the place, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. It's a Sunburst. It's actually at my other house right at the moment in the studio, but I always loved Gold Top's the best, but this Sunburst just blew me away in the way it played and sounded. And so I called the guys at Gibson and said, "Is there any way I could acquire it? Beg, borrow, steal, whatever, I mean," and they basically said, "Well, just go get it and we'll figure it out later." So I went down there and the guy goes, "So I can give you this guitar right now?" And I go, "Yeah." So yeah, Gibson's been really good to me, and they've always made such great stuff. There was a little strange time a few years back when they were starting to fall out a little bit with the last CEO or last boss, and it just wasn't working for them. They regrouped and man, come back so strong. It's like they're building the guitars from the 50s again. Crazy.
This one that we bought together in Nashville, it's still my go-to now. I absolutely love that SG.
Yeah, I love
that. That was a miracle. I remember you loved that.
It's great.
Yeah,
I have one SG body. It's a Les Paul Jr. from 1962. And it's a great guitar, but I think yours is maybe better. Your guitar, that's a sweet axe, man.
It always brings a smile to my face when I plug it in and crank it up. And my other go-to is an ESP as well. So there you go. Let's talk about the wine. What did you think about that Kanunkorp, that last one?
I love it. It's got a nice it's got a deep, beautiful red flavor. Yep. As a blend, you can probably pick out the aspects where it's not quite as thick as a Cabernet, but it's a little more meaty than a Merlot. Yeah. And
a lot of meatiness, a lot of gamey meatiness, absolutely.
It's got a great spice to it. It's got a nice peppery spice to it. I can see why with a steak it would go great.
Oh, absolutely. Well, if you think that one will go well with a steak, you should try the next one.
All right, I'm going to pour it right now.
Pour it. Go for it.
This is the
Delagraph.
Yeah. And Rotmanskop. Botmaskop.
So the story with these guys, Doug, this is probably one of the most luxurious wine estates you could ever hope to see.
Look,
it's the bottle first playing at home.
You were just telling me it was one of the most luxurious. I started to stop pouring. Now I'm going to keep going because you said.
No, go for it. Go for it. So Delagraph, this is a Bordeaux blend. So it's made in the traditional French style with the five, or I'm not quite sure what they have in it, but it's one of the five or pairings of the five classic varieties from France, being Cabernet, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Malbec, and Petit Verdot. But these guys, the wine estate is just pure luxurious setup, beautiful mountains surrounding it. They have a boutique, highbrow fashion label inside the cellar door, and they have a diamond shop inside the cellar door with fine dining. You'd love it. It's killer. But the wines are phenomenal.
I've never been to South Africa, but they got some grapes. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely. Well, I've been talking to DE many times about getting the daisies over there, but it's a bit tricky at the moment. And he was quite keen. We were talking about it. Yeah, when we were in Japan, we were quite down the track of looking at getting the band over there, but who knows? Maybe we'll get there one day.
We'll get there at some point.
Cheers. Have a look at this one. See what you think. That's a different beast.
Yeah, I can tell you, it's very strong.
That needs a lot of time to open up. That needs a good half an hour in the glass, but it just gets better and better and better.
So
That's
what shall I play? What shall I play? What song do you want to hear?
You know that my favorite is Still of the Night.
Oh, Still the Night. Still the night, I got some South African wine getting across my lips. Still the night. I don't know which one I like. They're all pretty freaking good.
Fantastic. Who wrote that? Who was the original riffmeister?
David Coverdale and John Sykes wrote it, but
John Sykes.
David said that he had that riff when he was in Deep Purple, as he had the bass. Now, put it like this: John Sykes is a friend of mine, and David's my bro, you know. So it's like I'm not gonna take sides or whatever, because they had a little falling out, as we do sometimes. Being in a band is like being married, so there are issues sometimes. And so they fell out, but David said he had that riff, and he was going to show that riff to Blackmore. And then he decided to cut out of Deep Purple, and he formed Whitesnake. And when they wrote that album, the '87 album, they were in the south of France, and he showed that riff to John Sykes, and John Sykes beefed it up, you know, and made it his own. And it's cool because it's very similar to it's the same kind of thing. Call and response, classic blues, call and response type of thing. It's like and those same types of chords are in Still the Night too. It's just amazing how they, you know. So yeah, it's I should put this down a little bit so you can see the guitar better. Yeah, that was cool. So they made an amazing song riff. It's definitely got some Zeppelin influence to it, you know. The whole which is very similar. You know, there's similarities between those two songs, but in a great way, you know.
What's your favorite song to play? Like, putting you on the spot now, and you probably don't have a particular favorite, or maybe you do, but like, what's your go-to? What makes you smile every time you strum that opening intro?
I mean, I gotta say, some of the Daisy songs are really, really fun, man. When the song
Long Way to Go.
Long Way to Go is a super fun song. Just like, David Lowy starts off. He had that riff from 2015, and then we were getting together. It was my first day of writing with the guys, and we were getting together in Nashville. And David was coming the next day, and so I was like, well, why don't we see? He had sent some riffs to everybody, and that was one I thought, that's really a great riff. We could make that into something, And it was basically, he had the riff, he just didn't have the rest of the song. But he starts it off, classic, right? And then the way that the song builds, I put some harmonics on it and just did a couple little. I just went like, and put some harmonica underneath him, and then when the song kicks in, by the time the song kicks in, it's like you're ready to hit the gas, and it's so fun to watch the audience start that song, and they're just kind of like this. But then by the time the band starts kicking, they're really like, going like
bouncing.
That. Yeah. it's a lot. And then I really love Song and a Prayer too. That's for some reason, I just really love playing that song. But I'll tell you what, the new album has got some stuff I can't wait to play.
Yeah. Can't say anything about that at the moment, obviously, but yeah, there's some killer songs on there, man.
And then
we always love Midnight Moses is another one.
Oh yeah, Midnight Moses. Yeah, it's good.
Killer.
And then make some noise.
That was a NASCAR, wasn't it? That was the song for NASCAR, wasn't it?
NASCAR played that. I think they picked up Rise Up too.
Yeah.
But we've got a rehearsal in what do we know? It's like it's hard to even keep track of what month we are. But yeah,
August. We're in August.
We're going to start rehearsing, I think, and going to have to go over all those songs again. It's been a while since we played them.
And you've got some cool dates booked in for next year. Foreigner, actually, David DE was mentioning Judas Priest support potentially somewhere in Europe.
Yeah, we definitely have a couple with Judas Priest. We got some with Foreigner. We got some festivals. We got our own shows. Yep. We're going to be busy, I hope. We got to pray to get through this thing this year. There's a lot of bands kind of starting to kick around and do stuff in Europe that's pretty cool. It's different. You got to socially distance. You got to be careful. Everyone's going to have to wear masks and stuff, but at least,
got to do it.
You got to
do it, man. Got to do it. Yeah, we've got to do it. I've been watching very closely what Lizzie Hale's doing from Hailstorm, and she's very interactive on the web and the broadcasts and things like that. So I think that's another way that's going to move forward. And Anthrax are recording online, doing everything collaboratively. So yeah.
Yeah. There's some bands playing live too. I mean, there's bands like they're doing stuff where it's socially distanced in after the 3 glasses of wine. Socially distanced. Yeah, socially distanced, and playing these gigs where it's like basically like I go by feet, so 4 feet by 8 feet, or sorry, 8 feet by 8 feet platform, and it's got rails on it, and you and your 4 friends can
Yeah, I've seen them. Oh well, we had such a big year planned with gigs here, and they all got canned. So.
We just got to get that. We got to get some good vaccines going for people who want them. I mean, I've been really trying to be careful, and I haven't seen anybody this whole time. The only person I've seen is Glenn Hughes.
Yep.
I saw David Lowy one day. That's it.
Yep.
But of course,
tough going, man. Yeah.
Since we were in the studio last year making the record, and the last time I played with the band was in December. It just feels strange. The only drummer that I've jammed with is my daughter Ruby. She, I got her drum kit for Christmas, and so she got this one beat where she goes on the snare, boom, then the toms, and then the cymbals. So it's like boom, bam, psh, boom, bam. So I just started making riffs up. And then she's like, she'll take the sticks and go, "Stop, Daddy, stop!" Stop! It hurts my ears. I got her headphones to protect her ears from, the cymbals and stuff, because God forbid she gets ears like mine. I got constantly ringing, going on in my ears.
Does Ryder involve himself with you in the music, or does he just kick the football around?
Just for football, yeah. He's school just started and it's online, so it's a little different now. But he's doing good. He got a little behind in the past couple of years on certain subjects, so he had to go to summer school. And I need to plug in my computer because it's going to die. So bear with me 1 second.
Sure. Well, I'm just going to pour myself another glass of something for Monday morning. Why not? Because that's what you can do. Well, you're up.
All right. I'm good.
So, Doug, tell us what you think of the wine from Delay Graph.
Let me stir it up one more time.
And make sure you share them with your lovely wife tonight. Yeah, you can't drink all those bottles by yourself.
I've got basically 3 full bottles of wine. I've barely touched them. But
happy days.
Definitely changed. This changed a lot since the last time I sipped it about 5 minutes ago. Yeah. It's definitely a little bit. It's still super bold and very strong, but it opened up. It's a little more. It's not as hard as it was at first.
It's gonna just keep building and brooding and getting bigger and delicious. I absolutely love it.
The way I reckon it is when your tongue first gets that wine on it, it kind of like tightens up. But the more that the more the wine opens up and the more that you sip it, then it kind of really appreciate the flavors and the it's very
complexity.
Complex.
Yeah.
Out of those 3 wines, this is definitely the most complex.
Yep. And which is your favorite? Or are they all different? They're good with different reasons.
I always love red. I'm not a super big white wine guy, but the Cedarburg is pretty amazing. I might say that's my favorite right now, but this is definitely great because it's complex. It's like, I don't know what you would eat with that. The Cadet, this one, I would definitely love to have a steak with that, like you said.
Yeah.
Maybe this one too.
Yeah, but they're all really good. Grilled meats, big, thick, red grilled meats would be good. Oh, well, I'm glad you enjoyed them. Tell us, Doug, what's next for you? What's next for Doug Aldrich? Oh, you're not too sure at the moment.
I would say, probably next, it's now about 5:30 my time, getting ready for dinner time, so I need to figure out what Dan and I are going to make. And then pretty quiet night tonight now that I've been drinking already. But the Dead Daisies have been doing a lot of stuff. We've got the lockdown sessions that came out, and those were during the time of the beginning of COVID, we started to send tapes back and forth together. And Glenn started with Unspoken. He sent an acoustic and a vocal. And so I watched the video and I was like, that's really cool. And then I put it on headphones and I recorded my guitar against it into my phone. And then I sent that to David Lowy. And David did it as well. And so we released Unspoken lockdown video. Then we did Fortunate Son, and then we did Righteous Days, and we did like a different version of Righteous Days. It's really cool. It's very, it's a different take. And then last but not least, we did a version of 30 Days in the Hole. It's just me and Glenn. It's kind of a gospel version. You know, some people didn't quite understand it at first, but it's really cool, and he sings his ass off on it. And so that's out right now. People can stream it, but they can also buy it. You just have to go to deaddaisies.com and check out what's going on there. But we've been trying to just keep social media going. Yeah. I'm going to keep doing I'm going to keep doing some guitar lesson stuff for the Dead Daisies socials. There's this thing we're doing now called Dougology. Just made up a funny name where I basically talk about something that interests me in music or guitar or my influences or whatever. So that's kind of fun. Recently, I did an interview with Dean. It was kind of a really fun interview together, like two of us together. So we're going to do some stuff like that. Meanwhile, Glenn and I have been actually banging around some ideas, even though we don't need them. We've just been doing it for fun. David's working on some riffs. So we'll see. We've got a little ways to go before we're going to be able to travel. So
lots of exciting stuff. Yeah.
It's going to be really exciting once we're able to travel. It's going to be unbelievable. Can't wait. I want to see
Doug,
you. We got to get together, man.
Well, I was invited to go to France, but it wasn't possible last year, and now I wish it had been possible because it'd be really cool to catch up and get you down to Australia actually and show you around here. And I mean, you've been to Oz before with Whitesnake, haven't you?
Once, yeah, just once. 2008.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I loved it. I can't wait to go back.
You've got a massive fan base here, so we've got to get you over.
Yeah, man. Can't wait. I would love it.
Doug, give us your parting thoughts for the wines and for the South African industry in general at the moment. What do you think? What's your message to the wine lovers around the world?
I know you said in South Africa. I mean, it's very difficult to know what's going on everywhere. Everywhere is struggling, but to know that these guys are struggling because of COVID, it hurts, you know. And I'm sorry for that. We got to all try and support these companies and hang in there and keep, you know, life will come back, you know, to normal, but we got to hang in there together and support each other and support these great companies that are producing the wines and keep people working, so they can keep their job and feed their family. You know, it's very important. I mean, of course, you drink a bottle of wine like this, and it's like artwork, you know. But when you think about it, there's a lot of hard work, you know, that goes into the production of that, and we need all those people to have their jobs. So we got to try and support it. And I gotta say, these are three amazing wines. Definitely some of the best wines I've ever had in my life.
That's awesome. Doug Aldrich, thank you so much for joining us from Los Angeles and for taking time out on your busy Sunday afternoon. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
It's my pleasure. It's always great to see you, bro. It's been too long, and
it has.
We'll get together in the new year for sure.
I'm looking forward to that. And please pass on best wishes to Daniela and Ruby and Ryder. And
Daniela was going to do something with me until I told her it was live broadcast. It's like, well, you know, I'm not really ready. You didn't tell me that part. I'd be like, so, well, what do we need to do?
What's the difference?
What do we need to do to get on the air? And she said, well, maybe I'll do my own show with Ross.
All right, she's up. I'll hit her up for that.
She's done she's done a new business called Mama Wunderbar, and it's basically she sells white sage products that are wrapped in flowers, and she's done really well for herself. I'm super proud of her. So if you get a chance, I want you to check out. Did we send you some or no? No. I need to send you some. Mama
All right.
Wunderbar.
Well, I'll send you all the details after this on the chat, and we'll hook that up. That'll be great.
All right, cool.
Doug, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks,
Stay
everybody.
safe, and love to everyone back in LA.
Likewise to you guys. Thank you, Ross. Thanks, brother.
Talk soon, bro. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.